Talk to Helen Gemara. Kaskas habatim, va'boyos, va'shichen, va'ma'oros, va'shoifos, va'merchatois. Oh, good morning. So we're not talking about how to be kind of things. We're talking about how you prove that something belongs to you. So the normal way to prove that something belongs to you is you keep the document that showed that you purchased it. But how long do you have to hold that document? At what point could you say, I've been here for years, now it's mine? So the Mishnah tells us the way to make a chazak on any type of property, whether it's houses, whether it's bayros, or it's other types of bayros, caves and ditches, and places where you keep birds, or a merchot, or wash houses, beis habadin and beis hashlochen, beis habadin. I don't know. I don't even know how we touch a beis habad. It means a press. If you own an oil press, or beis hashlochen, or it's a field. It's a field that does not get enough rainwater on its own. It's a field that has to be irrigated. So today is the last full day of Rashi, which is a concise pirush, and tomorrow we get started on the Rashbam, the middle of the day. In the middle of the day, we're going to have a transition. We're going to switch from like Wi-Fi to 5G, maybe 10G. It depends on how long the Rashbam is that day. So Cheskas Abatim, so the Gemara is not discussing how to be koine property. The Gemara is discussing until what point do you have to have your star, your raya, to prove that something is yours, so that someone can't come along and say, this belongs to me. At what point can you say, I lived here so long, no one bothered me, now it's mine. So Zok the Heilige Mishnah, Cheskas Abatim, Baboris, Hashichin, Bamoris, Hashoifchos, Vermechotzoyis, Ubeisabatim, Ubeisashlochen, Avodim as well. The tzara shova between all of the items that we listed are these things constantly produce payers. Let's see Rashi what that means. Since it has a well within it, you're always able to irrigate it because it has a constant source of water. It might not always rain there, and we need to irrigate it, but it has within it a source of water. Therefore, Oisa Peres Tadir. Since it always gets watered, not only during the seasonal rains, but you can irrigate it whenever you want. Therefore, this constantly produces Peres. There's no seasons. Anything that constantly makes Peres, such as a merchat, a beis habad, you can constantly do work there. Avodim, it's 3 calendar years from day to day. So from January 8th to January 8th, for instance. If you have a chazaka in it for 3 years, and we'll have to see what chazaka means. It's not like a no lugadar parat, which is the type of action you do to actually be koina property. We're merely talking here about proving that the property is mine. So how we define a chazaka in respect to cheskas abatim, we're going to see. Ein tzarich lahavi shtar mechira. Once you were there for 3 years, you no longer have to verify your purchase with a shtar mechira. If the bailam that sold this property to you came along and said, this is my property, what are you doing on my property? And the person who made the chazaka claims, counterclaims, machartali, you sold it to me, but v'avad shtori, but I lost my star, cheskosoi my elasloi, the fact that he was there for the 3 years, miyayim liyayim, is enough of a raya instead of the star. V'imlav, but if he wasn't there for 3 years, ein cheskosoi my elasloi, and if he can't prove that he bought it, and the claimant can prove that this field always belonged to him, the person who bought it without the raya will now be thrown off. Adam. Yeah. Shekisha Amru. And there's going to be a discussion. Soon do you need one set of Adam all 3 years, or could you have multiple sets of Adam that cover for different periods of time? Amru. Gimel shonim l'chazaka. When Chazal said that there's 3 years for chazaka, it's not just that you were there, it's the fact that you're taking all of the produce of a field. You're not living in a field for 3 years. The field is out in the sticks. But you'll have Adam that will say that you've taken all of the pears that this soda produced for 3 years. That's a chazak. If someone will not stand by idly and watch for 3 full years as someone is taking all of the yield of his field without saying anything. So that is the halacha for Asada Beis Hashlachim. It's 3 years miyoyim liyoyim. What about Asada Beis Habal? What is Asada Beis Habal? Rashi defines that as hamistapekes b'megshavim. It relies on the rain. That ain't no oisa peiros alapah machas b'shana, because there's one rainy season, which is the growing season of that field. Therefore, cheskasa gimel shonim, that will be 3 years, but ve'ena tricha miyoyim liyoyim. Doesn't have to be miyoyim liyoyim. The main thing is that you capture the yield of this field for 3 years in a row. This field does not produce all year long. So as long as the 3 growing seasons per year, the 3 growing seasons, 1 per year, so you took all of the produce of the growing season for 3 years, that will be a chazaka, and that does not necessarily take 3 full years. What is the chazaka? How much time do you need? So we know you don't need miyoyim liyoyim. So now it opens it up to a machlokes tanoim. How much time would you need? Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Gimel Chadashim, Berishayna, the Gimel Bachroina. The first of the 3 years, you need to have it for 3 months. The last of the 3 years, you need to have it for 3 months. Ushnei Masar Chodesh be'emtza, and the full year in between, for a total of Hareza Yud Ches Chodesh. Dr. Rashi, Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Shloisha Chadashim Achroinim, Shel Shana Rishayna, Ushloisha Chadashim Rishaynim, Shel Shana Achroina, V'emtzois Shalema, Sheyesh HaMamayim L'Zoya L'fnei Rosh Hashanah. There are some, you have a season. It's 1 season per year, but you could start planting a little earlier. The season is long enough so that not everybody has to plant at exactly the same time and harvest at exactly the same time. There is some leeway to adjust when you're going to plant. So on the first year you could have planted late. On the third year you could have planted early, and therefore you'll be able to accomplish 3 seasons of yield in less than 3 full years. The chivin sheyichzik ba soif sana rishona gimel chadashim the yesh lo edim. So that's what we're referring to. The yesh lo edim shazara va'oisan gimel chadashim. You need edim that you planted it in those 3 months and you captured all of its yield. V'chein begimel chadashim rishonim shalachrona. You also had edim to say that you captured all of the yield of the field during the first 3 months of the 3rd year. That is considered like 3 consecutive years of you capturing all the yield of the field. No one is going to stand by silently and watch as someone else is coming along and capturing all of the annual yield of his field without saying anything at all. Therefore, the least amount of time in which one can create this chazaka would be 18 months.
About there's only 1 year per year.
Correct. It depends on the rainy season.
It grows in the winter.
So you're telling me that the Gemara is wrong. The Mishnah is wrong.
I don't understand how could it get the yield.
The Mishnah says that the Balti relies on rain, it's only going to produce once a year.
Right, but could it produce in the winter?
Maybe that's when it produces. I know in Israel the main product season is the winter. Right? That's why before Pesach you have the Chodesh.
It doesn't grow. It doesn't grow.
It doesn't grow in the summer.
No, it doesn't grow in the winter.
Sure, it sure grows in the winter.
But if the yield, you don't harvest. You can't get
The harvest is done at the end of the winter. But you could have earlier harvest, you could have a later harvest. Sorry?
That's not the Chadusha.
What's not three Kedoshim?
From the sowing like that.
From when you plant
till the harvest. The first three Chadusha, that means Tishrei, Tashvan Kislev, Nothing.
It's still, I think things will come. Sure. I believe that's the main season. They plant all the way almost to Kislev, and then they harvest before Pesach. Okay, so I'm sorry,
it's a 6 month and not a 3 month.
But it seems like you can get a full crop in within 3 months. Rabbi Kiva Omer, Chodesh b'Rishona, v'Chodesh b'Achrona, v'Yud Beis Chodesh b'Emtza. You don't even need 18 months. You need 1 month in each of the end years, the 1 and the 3. Hara Yud Dalad Chodesh. Zok Rashi, before Gemara of my plea, the Gemara is going to explain how is it that Rabbi Yishmael was able to achieve this chazaka, Rabbi Kiva was able to achieve this chazaka in that shorter amount of time. Amar Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael said, "Amed bar mamurim zok Rashi shetzorich yud ches chodesh lebeis habal is only for Echsad lebeis habal. Where can you get by? Where can you pull off this chazaka in 18 years? Beis habal. Amed bar mamurim. I'm sorry, bisad alavan. That we say that in the Sada Beis Habal, where you only get a season, and you therefore you need the 18 months, is beside the Lavan, it's a field like you're planting wheat in, grain in. Shekol Rashi, generally speaking, if you plant a field of wheat, the harvest is all going to be done at the same time. All of the pears will be ready to be harvested at the same time. That's why you need the 3 years, at least part of 3 years. But what if you had trees? Dr. Rashi, you know what's unique about trees? The fruit of a tree, not all trees ripen at the same time. For instance, Dr. Rashi, grapes tend to ripen during one period during the year. And olives So in such a case, if it was a field of trees, you can accomplish a chazaka so much more quickly. Because Kane says tfuasa, which Rashi says is referring to grapes. So if you harvested the grapes, and then you harvested the olives, and then Kane says kaitzai, which Rashi says are referring to figs, and what they used to do with figs is they would harvest them, and then they would put them in the field to dry out. So the Kane says kaitzai to einam likate v'yovshat, but and you dry them out in the field. So Rashi is defining the harvesting of figs as not just cutting it off the tree, but as completing the full process of drying them out. You took the full yield of 3 different types of trees, all in 1 year. That would be a chazaka itself. That would be called a speedy chazaka. I heard from those who went to Usha. And who were those who went to Usha? Dr. Rashi Shagolsa Sanhedrin Usha. When Sanhedrin went into Golos to Usha, Hidarmina Bershashana, Eser Golios Golsa Sanhedrin, Miyavna Usha. They had to run and move from Yavna to Usha. We're soon going to see which specific Tana Rabbi Yochanan heard it from. But for now, the Gemara is telling us that Rabbi Yochanan claims he heard it from the Sanhedrin. So Yoimrim, Minayin lechazaka. Let's look at the Hay. Shein Gimel Shanim. The Hay says, Minayin lechazaka Shehi Gimel Shanim. You know how you know 3? Where do you get this number 3 from? Like maybe 1 year, someone won't be willing to stand by as someone captures all of the yield of his field. What's up if you need 3? Zak Gemara Mishar Hamud. I'm sorry? When it has 3 harvests. Yes, rest, it has to be. So rest, the question is that so Zoktovi, 1 harvest will be enough. That no one would allow that to happen without getting up in arms. So why is it that it's 3? Zoktomar Mishar Mood. To hammer something home and to make it real, you need 3. Where do you know that? From Ashar Hamud. Ma Ashar Hamud. Kivin Shenagach Gimel Negichais. Nafaklei Mecheskas Tam, become Lei Becheskas Muad, just like by Ashar. After it's touched 3 times, it is no longer a Tam. It now is a Muad, and from now on, if it's toises, you're going to pay nezek shalom min ha'aliyah hachanami even the achla klashnin. Once a person ate it 3 years, nofak lo mirshus moicher, it leaves the rishus moicher, the kaima law b'rishus lakeach, and it moves into the rishus lakeach. This sounds very much like it's a kinyan. The kinyan, it leaves the possession of the moicher, goes into the possession of the lakeach. With that assumption, the Gemara asks, "I ma shar hamuad ad negicha revius loy mechayev." Then, if you want to compare the two, then the shar hamuad is not mechayev nezek shalom by the third negicha. After the third negicha, it changes status, and then for the fourth negicha is when you're chayev nezek shalom. Hachanami at shana revius loy kaimer b'shusay. It shouldn't be in his rishos. This kinyan shouldn't work until the 4th year comes by. Zok Gemara hachi ashta. Let's drill down a little bit more deeply. Hasam mechinagach shalosh negichos havamuad. The animal is identified now. Its status changes from tam to muad the moment it already did the third negicha. The only thing is a technicality. The fact that it changed status doesn't have an impact until it stoises a 4th time, and then its status as a muad makes you be mechuyev nezek shalom. If it wouldn't have stoised again, my l'shalom, why would the owner have to pay? There was no negicha. But if there is a negicha, by the 4th negicha, since now the animal is already in a status of muad, that's where there'll be a chiyuv of nezek shalom. But hacha, even the acha tlashni, once the buyer has already eaten all of its pears for 3 years, kaimalav rishusay, now it's in his rishus, and therefore the status has changed. Nothing else is needed now to see the impact of that. The impact of that will be relevant immediately because now it's verified as Zok Gemara. If that's the case, if the whole makar of the chazak of 3 years is a shar muad, well then its halacha should be very similar, if not identical, to that of a shar muad. To have a chazak. Now the halacha is, if I live in your field for 3 years and I have all the yield, and you come along and say, "Get out of my field," I say, "It's my field." All right, I lived in it for 3 years. It's my field. Did you buy it? No, it's just mine. It's mine because I was there for 3 years. We know that doesn't work. You throw mine out. Chazaka is only a verification that I bought it. But if I'm not claiming that I bought it, then the chazaka has no value. But if you want to learn it from a shar muad, then why did we learn kol chazaka she'eni matayna eina chazaka? Zok Rashi, she'eni matayna mefarish b'mishnisa lakamon. The Gemara is going to soon explain what that means. Amar loy ma'ata oisa b'sarich shali. What are you doing on my property? Amar loy, you know why I'm in my property? Because I was here all this time. Similar to the squatters' laws in Ontario or in California. I'm here. Too bad I get to stay. Doesn't matter I never paid a day rent. Doesn't matter that I have absolutely no time to claim whatsoever. It should be mine. I'm here, so I get to stay. This is a liberal city, so there's no justice. He never claimed that you sold it to me. It's just too bad. We have kooky, liberal nut bars running our country, and therefore I'm here. Too bad you can't throw me out. That's not a chazaka. The Gemara doesn't have a havamina that it should be a chazaka. To have a chazaka, but according to these kooks of the liberals, it should be a chazaka. The Amr Shalashana Mafkala Mishus Meicher. You said that 3 years takes it out of the Rishos Meicher. So Zok to Gemara, nonsense. Time amai. What's the whole reason why we're saying you believe him with the chazaka when he's approached by this person who claims that this property originally belonged to him? The Amrina on Dilma Kitika Amr Hashta. The whole part is he bought them there 3 years. Maybe my claim that I purchased it has validity. But if he doesn't claim that he purchased it, Anan Nitin Lake, we should time it for him. If this squatter, this lowlife, this ganav, this mazik parked in your property, but we're going to stand up for him, the teretz is if you're a liberal kook, you will. But if we talk about the mala mention won't. Zok, the heilige Rashi, Time in my Amrina, we have to chop around every Rashi because we're about to lose Rashi. Time in my Amrina. Let's look at the previous Rashi. Tava Chazaka, the Amrit, you said, Shalosh Shanim Mafkile Mishus Moicher. 3 years independent of anything else, we'll pull it out of the Mishus Moicher. Shani time in my Amrina, Shalosh Shanim Mafkum Law Micheskas Markama. Is the Amrina, we say Dilma Kedig Amar Iu. Maybe the taina that the person in the property is claiming is true. What did he say? I bought it from you. But the petitioner is saying, "Goes out to me, man. You stole it from me. You came with a gun and you told me to take a hike. You never bought it from me fair and square. We don't know who's saying the truth." The chazak of 3 years comes along, and places it in his rishus. Not a kinyan. It places it in his rishus that he's believed to say that he purchased it. Maybe what this prior is saying is true. But there's no reason whatsoever why this property would have changed hands from the seller to the buyer, from where he bought it from, it won't do anything. Okay, gewaltig. Time in my darin to look to cover hashta. Anon litin lay. So that takes care of that kind. But once again, if you're telling me the whole source of Cheskes Shaloshanim comes from Sharamuid, Matzkel Rabavira, Lamayato Macho, Shaloi Befon of Loy to have a Macho. The halacha is, what if I see someone who's on my property? I don't have to go to the property and start screaming at the person in the property and make a Macho. It's enough if I take 2 Eidim and I say, you know, Yankel sitting in that property over there, I want you to know it's my property. That Macho will be enough. The problem is, what happens if 2 Eidim come to Bezdin and say that Reuven Shtar Simon Shtar? Sure. But Reuven was never there. The Eidim went to Bezdin, said Eidim, but Reuven wasn't there to defend his Shar. That is for sure not going to make it into a Shar Mu'id. Yet, we know when it comes to the Macho against the Chazaka, that could be done, even Shaloi B'fnei Abaltin. It shouldn't be a good macha, just like you find in the rules of making a shar from a tam into a mu'ud. Dum yod a shar mu'ud. Ma shar mu'ud b'fana b'inam. But a shar mu'ud, the shar only becomes a mu'ud if it stoishes 3 times because the owner of the shar tam that's transitioning to a shar mu'ud is present in Bezdin when Adam come to Taina to testify that the shor stois. So maybe af hachanami the fun of inon. So too, if someone's moicha, it should be in front of the nidain. Dr. Gemara, all we're proving is the number 3. The details and the nuances of each halacha, chazaka, or nezikin, they don't transfer from one to the other. And there happens to be a pasuk specifically by the hadah of making a shor tam to a shor mu'ud. It says v'huad b'vala. It had to become a mu'ud in the presence of the bailam that the Torah dictates. V'huad b'vala. That's what it said. Hasam and v'huad b'vala. There's the v'huad b'vala. That's why there's a special rule that the bailam have to be there. But hacha here, it's just a matter of the information getting to the person who's in the field. And this is a famous line that we use for Lashon Hara. Chavrach, chaver islay. The chaverim have a friend. The chaver islay. In other words, the word goes on. Everybody, the best way to pass along information is to say, I'm telling you a secret, please don't tell anybody. And everybody has one exception to everybody. That don't tell everybody. Everybody has a one exception, right? I'm telling you, but don't tell anybody. So the same way you made an exception, you told one person, he also tells one person. And it's the best way to transmit information is to call somebody and tell them, I'm telling you a secret. I'm not telling anybody because I'm sworn to secrecy except for you. And that's the best way to pass along information. And therefore, the person in the field will know that someone is being ma'ar on his property, and he'll know, I better hold on to my star. Let's see Rashi, because this opens up a whole new set of questions. Macha shaloi b'fanav loy tav macha. Emicha ma'arer v'toich shalishanim lifnei edim, but shaloi b'fnei machzik v'yamar, and he told to edim, to you should know, shaploini machzik b'karka shali b'gzela. Chaim, my uncle, who's in my field now, you should know he doesn't have the rightful ownership of the property. That is a good macha, but if you're learning it out of Sharamuid, loy tav macha, maybe it shouldn't be a good macha, dimi de Sharamuid, shemeidin sheshare nakchad, uv'shalish pa'amim sheidu, shalai b'fenenu, and in Asamud. If the edus was set on the shore that it stoys 3 times, but the owner of the shore was not there, this shore would not become a muad. Maybe ap asros edus shal macha, loy sav edus shalai b'fanav, the macha dumya da'adahi. Let's say that the macha is similar to the adah. Shehi asra lishmar shayre. Just like the edus of an animal that stoys is warning the owner, you better watch your animal better. The afa macha hasrai. In a way, macha is also warning. Lehizayer beriyas schustoi ushtar mechirosai. It's a warning that you better hold on to your evidence because there's going to be somebody who's going to challenge you. And for that, the Gemara answered, no, that's not what we're learning from Sharmuad. We're only learning the 3 years, and by Sharmuad there's a special pasuk of Ahuad Devalav Amrach. Mana Kloimar, Loidami. The Hidig Amrinan Shalish Shanim, Bishalish Negichais. And we learned that Kechi de Mavke Hani Mechazaka. Haninami Mavke Mechazaka, that 3 times create something, makes a change. That's what we learned. Avo Macha, Me'adah, less than the Megmar. We're not going to learn the rules of macha from the rules of adah. What's the purpose of the edus? To be machayev, the owner of the ox, money to pay for its damages. In order to make an animal into a muad, of course, the bailam have to know about it. You need to give the mazik an opportunity to defend himself, to contradict the edim or to bring edim zoyim in. You need a proper edus where it could be fully defended by the person being impacted by the edus. Aval time of the macha is merely lahasra boy to warn him. All we're doing is we're giving him a warning that you better be careful and cross your T's and dot your I's. This Me'ayer is claiming that the property you're in is stolen. So therefore, Talk to Gemara, the Chavra Chislei, eventually the person in the property, the buyer, is going to hear that there's a claim against him and he better keep all of his documents. And therefore, 3 years later, he can't say, I didn't know there was a Ma'ar. If I would have known, I would have held on to my star. You did know, because the fact that this person was Ma'ar in front of Adam, even though you weren't there, surely got to your ears and you knew about it. The reason why this is a little bit complicated is there's actually a shaila by a shor hamuad. Who is becoming the muad? Is the animal becoming the muad, or is the bailam becoming the muad? We have to warn the bailam 3 times to watch, and if the bailam is warned 3 times and he doesn't, and the 4th time he doesn't watch, now he's a muad. So that will impact knowing about it, because it's much more similar. It's much more similar. The 2 cases of macha for chazaka and the 3 times of mud, if we're discussing the bailam behavior rather than the animal. We should have time to peek into Tosfos, so hopefully we will be able to. So Dr. Rashi, I'm sorry, not Dr. Marvite. Ula Rab Meir, the Amar Richak Negichos of Chayiv, Kir of Negichos of Lakol Shekei. Rab Meir tells us, the Tanakama says that a shor cannot go from a tam to amud in one day. It has to be 3 negichos, but each of these negichos have to be on a separate day. Rab Meir said, Madich, if there's a time span in between the negichos, you say this is a wild animal, If it stoises 3 times in a row in one day, like kos again, surely it should be a kama sharamud. Let's see Rashi again. Reb Meir the Amar, Kloimer, Reb Yehuda Amar b'Bava kama ezeh umud kol sheidu by shloisha yomim. Equal member haka gimel shanim dum yud gimel yon. El Reb Meir the Amar hasam. Da filo nagach gimel pam b'yoyim echad. Have amud mikal v'chomer. Well then hachanami. Achlo tlas pri b'chad yoyim. If you ate 3 pears in one day, going to Eina, she'eina mispashelas yachad. The interesting part of figs are not all the figs on the tree ripen at the same time. So therefore, you can eat today from this tree a fig that had just ripened. The other one, the next fig, you can eat in the evening because it ripened only later. So, are you going to tell me, according to Meir, in one day you can have a full chazaka by eating 3 pears, 3 figs, as they ripen? Zok the Gemara inside. Are you going to tell me that's going to be a chazaka? Zok the Gemara, no. You know why? Because even according to Reb Meir, where 3 negichas on the same day makes the sharon to a sharamud, dum yuder sharamud. Ma sharamud beidna de islay high negicha less alon negicha. At the time of the second negicha, the first negicha is completely gone. Mashenke in hakanami beidna de isla high pera leisar la high pera. Mashenke, if you're looking at figs on a tree, yes, one might have ripened later, but it was there while the first one ripened, while it was eaten. That's not doima anyway, even to Reb Meir's case of chazaka, and therefore eating 3 figs one by one as they ripen is not considered similar to negichis, which one is totally gone once the other one happened. So that's why, even according to Meir, you wouldn't be able to eat 3 pears the same day. However, for Gemara, but there's other options. How about?
I don't understand the cloud. How eating 1 fig is going to make it.
You're eating 3 figs.
Right, again, but each fig is a single fig. Then the ganze yield violet. Okay, this was the balabus. As einer ist ein Fag, okay, it doesn't mean that.
At this moment, this is the entire yield. At this moment, this is the only pita that's ready.
What is Chazukah Shov? Chazukah Shov that yield balabus.
I hear you, Shiloh, but I think that's what the logic. Correct, Gemara. How about achlut tlasa peri with tlasa yoyim? What if you ate 3 pears in 3 days, but 1 pear isn't around where the other pear was? When you pick the next pear, going tzlaf, like tzlaf, lahava chazaka, that should be a chazaka. What is tzlaf? It's peri shalai nikar be'ayoyim b'nigmar l'soif gimel yomim. So you have a peri that from total 0, where you don't even see anything, 3 days later you can have a full peri. So what happens if in 3 times you waited 3 days and each day you ate a tzlafatan, lava chazaka, zok gemara? Oh no, it's actually saying in 3 days. So day 1 you have tzlaf 1, day 2 you have tzlaf 2, and day 3 you have tzlaf 3. And the thing is, since they're barely developed, when you ate the first, you barely saw that the other ones were growing because they grow so quickly. Maybe that should be a chazaka. There is some peri there, it's just small and you don't see it and it grows very fast. So therefore, we still not doime to the case of negicha, where the first peri is completely not there. The first negicha is completely not there when you're doing the second peri, and vice versa. It's just getting finished, it's getting completed, but there is some remnant of the second peri there, even while the first peri is being eaten. So Zok to Gemara, how about Achla Tlasa Peri B'Tlasan Yoimin? What if you ate 3 pears in a span of 30 days, going aspasta? Aspasta is, Rashi says, min zerahu la'isa behemoth. So let's call that hay. It's animal feed, and it only takes 30 days for it to grow. So it has a pretty quick cycle. L'soif lamid joim hunigmar, and then you uproot the hay and you plant another batch of hay. So what happens if I didn't wait till it grows 30 days? Rather, you trim it 3 times. So what if in those 30 days you ate from the hay 3 times? You harvested from the hay 3 times as you were trimming it. So that should be a chazaka. Zok Gemara, hey Chadami, how did you do it? The kediach v'achla, the kediach v'achla. As Rashi says, kediach v'achla means it was trimmed. Gidol tzas, it grew a little bit and you cut it. Grew a little bit and you cut it. So it's 3 different crops, and you didn't wait till they're fully grown, but you cut them 3 times. Zok Gemara, no, that's not called a lahedyidik eating that should irk the real owner of the property to prompt him to be moicha. So again, that's not a good chazak. So zok to Gemara, what about achla tlasa peri b'tlasa yarchi learn pasta? What if you let that pasta grow fully 3 times? So now it takes 90 days, but you still have 3 full, complete harvests. Lahava chazaka, it should be a chazaka. And is it a chazaka? Zok to Gemara, now we're going to tell you who the halchei usha were who claimed that the makar of the chazaka shalosh shonim by karka is the gimel pa'amim of the gicha that makes a shar into sharmud. It's Rabbi Yishmael, and according to Rabbi Yishmael, in the chanami, you could make a chazaka more quickly, and in fact, it would be true by a pasta. You'd be able to have a chazaka in 90 days because Rabbi Yishmael and Mishnah said just that. Hachanami ditnan Rabbi Yishmael Aimer Hamed Devar Marmur B'Stei Lav B'Sada Lavan, which is like a wheat field which you only harvest once a year. If you're harvesting multiple times a year, different crops, like a Sada Ilan where you have different type of fields, Kana says to Vasai, Mazaka says so, the kind of his kaitzai, so it stems perfectly, you're right. So who had did with his pasta, you could possibly have a chazaka in 90 days. Because according to Rabbi Shmuel, you can have it in a much shorter period of time if you did 3 harvests. So you know what, your tiny is 100% right. Since we learned it out of the Gichais, in fact, it could be accomplished in less than 3 full years. Correct Gemara, the Rabbanan Mai. The Rabbanan didn't hold of Rabbi Shmuel. So if he doesn't hold of Rabbi Shmuel, obviously he's not learning it out of the chazaka of a sharamud. All the cases we try don't work because the Gemara says they're not a chazaka. The one's not around. It has to be that the first one's not around when you do the second one. Or it can't be shamit vachel. It can't be eating half-grown stuff. But if it's a regular, full display of ownership, and you could do it in less than 3 years, avad should be valid, similar to Reb Meir of Sharamut. But according to Rabbanan, who hold you always need the 3 years, who disagree with Rabbi Shmuel, they can't possibly be learning chazaka of 3 years from a Sharamut, because then you should be able to accomplish it in less time. Reb Yosef, we have a completely separate pasuk from Navi. And here the Navi was talking to Klal Yisrael when they were being thrown out of Eretz Yisrael. And Yirmiyah was telling them what they should do if they buy property. Because they're going to be gone for a while, and you're not going to be here long enough to be able to have 3 years to have a chazak on the property. So therefore he told them, because you're going to be thrown out, you're going to come back eventually for the Bay Yesheni, but right now you're not going to be able to prove your ownership of the land. So therefore the Navi told them, Sadosh Bakesav Yiknu, and the Kasav Basever V'chasoim, but you better hold on to your star. Let's look at Rashi. Let's look at the Torah Sholem. Sadosh Bakesav Yiknu, the Chasoim Basever V'chasoim, V'ha'ideidim. Make sure to line up all of your proof. Beres Binyamim, Uvesvive Yerushalayim, Uvar Yehuda, Uvar Ahar, Uvar Shvei, Uvar Negev. Any place you want to buy property in Israel, make sure to hold on to all of the proof that you purchased it. You know why? Because you're being thrown out. But eventually I'm going to bring you back, and then you're going to want to take your property that you purchased before you were thrown out of Eretz Yisrael. Make sure you have a raya. Jerry Novi I made the Eser. He was on the 10th year. Rashi Tzidkiyahu's 10th year, and Yidden went to Golos during the 11th year of Tzidkiyahu. Novi I made the Eser Umazar al Achas Asri, and he's warning us that next year we're going to be thrown out. So you're only going to get 2 years of Chazakah. Therefore, he says, since you don't have 3, you only have 2, you better hold on to your star. It's a mashma that if we had 3, you wouldn't have to hold on to your star. That's where the source of 3 years of chazakah, being a chazakah, comes from. Amalei Abaye, who said you learn hilchas chazakah from this story. Maybe it's a chazakah with less, but you're telling them don't take chances. You can be away for such a long time. You're going to rely on chazakah. Hold on to your stars. Who said he's telling you halachically that you would need 3 years for chazakah and 2 years won't be a chazakah? Maybe he was just giving him sound advice. Hold on to your proof, because you might think that not hold on to your proof because are you ever coming back? I'm telling you, we're all coming back. Hold on to your proof. If you're not going to explain Yirmiyah's words as just being good advice and not conveying halacha, I'm going to show you the next part of this pasuk, the next part of this inyan, where clearly he's just giving them good advice and he's not teaching them halacha. Because what does it say in the pasuk? What else did Yirmiyah tell them? If I can find it, Benu Vatim. He told them, you Yidden that are in Bavel, that have already been thrown into Golus, don't just live in tents because you're moving back tomorrow. You're there for the long haul. And therefore, Benu Vatim, build homes in Bavel, Vishavu, V'natu Ganois, and plant your gardens there. Be prepared that you're not just there overnight, you're there for the long term. In the bottom, the Shavu, Natu, Ganois, Bachlos, period, my comer. What was he telling them? What halacha was he trying to convey to them? What he was merely doing is giving them an eitzah, since you're going to be there for a while. So get yourself set up. Hachanami, maybe here when you told them to hold on to their stores, it was merely eitzah toiva kamash malon. Maybe he was just giving them a good idea. And Teda, I'll prove it to you. Because you know what else he told them? Those stories that I'm telling you to write and hold on to. Store your stories in Klicheres, because that is the best way to preserve a document. He's giving them advice on how to preserve documents. That's not halachic advice at all. So you see, that's what Yirmiyah was doing. He was helping them. So we cannot claim that the source of chazakah comes from Yirmiyah Novi. And it's not going to stem with these 3 times of a Sharamut. So what is the source according to the Rabbanan, who hold that you can't make a chazakah in 1 day or in 30 days or in 90 days? Marava, Shata Kamaisa, let's stop here. We'll have to remain in suspense. Hopefully we'll be able to dampen our curiosity. We'll sleep tonight after the fast day, and we'll pick up on this tomorrow, Bez Hashem Yisparach. The Bacham who end up staying. Yeah. Only the losers. This is like Shabbos loser. Shabbos loser in yeshiva was